And then once we master the easy things, then let's start doing the hard things. And that worked really well. We had a huge harvest. We built our confidence. We had tons of fun. And now we're excited for next year and excited to have bigger, harder plants.
Well, welcome everyone to today's episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want. We are entering into a whole new season coming up, and it's going to be fall soon. So, we figured why not talk about fall harvest, manifesting, and all that goes along with that. So, in case we haven't met, my name is Karen.
And my name is Ashley. I'm excited for this one because it's very broad and very simple at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at nature gives us such a great
Mhm.
representation of what fall is. Like you are planting so that you can create some sort of harvest before the winter months, right? Like you've put in all this work, all this energy to create food for yourself, right? Like, and you look at all of the different plants and things that grow at this time of year that don't necessarily grow in the spring or the summer or the winter, right? Like, nature does such a great job of representing to us, like, how we should look at our life. And we get so caught up in our lives that we forget that nature is literally showing us what to do. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I've had like little mini gardens. I still have a little mini garden, but it feels bigger than normal. And I have absolutely loved it this year. It's so wonderful. And it teaches you so much. It grounds you so much. And I started late in the season and
Mm-hmm.
um it was interesting to see like is it worth it and all that kind of stuff. And it's such a reflection of life. I'm starting late in the game. Like, is it even worth it for me to try? Um I learned about like what is best to start late in the season, what grows best in the fall, and how you can start one thing and then the next thing. And it's so interesting how there's so many things that we can take from nature, from growing, from animals, from plants. It's just, yeah, it's unbelievable. So it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. And I think it like so was talking about how like we're talking about manifestation too and um fall and all the seasons have different times of growing different things. And that's the
Mhm,
same thing with your life whenever you're creating something new.
mhm,
So one of the most detrimental things that I see in a lot of the online space, a lot of gurus will say this that manifestation, like once you get it, it'll just come so easy. And like it can be so easy to create XYZ. And it gets people really tripped up because there are seasons in life for certain things. I was watching TikTok yesterday and this girl freaking got me. I was like, I feel so seen. So she was talking about, she was one of those, she wasn't a tarot reader, but she was an intuitive.
mhm,
She was just talking about how if they always say this, and how I look at it is if I land there and I stay there and I want to accept the truth that they're giving to me, then it's true. If I don't want to, then it's not true, right? Like you get to decide, not because somebody told you, okay? So, but anyways, everything she said, I was like, yes, 100%. So, what she was saying is she's like, you have been in this season for, and she's like, "Ah, I feel like it's anywhere between 3 and 7 years." And I was like, oh my God, holy shit. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you're seeing me right now. Okay. Okay. What else is she going to say? She's like, you've been in this season for about 3 to 7 years where you have been working and working and doing the do and making the changes and you know what you need to do and you're doing the things and you're like, when's my time? And I'm
mhm.
like, yeah. How'd you know, lady, that I've never met before? Like, how did you know? But that right there is just a reflection of like it's just like the fall harvest. Like you're putting in all of this energy, you don't know when, like, because you don't know what the
Yep.
soil is going to be like. You don't know what the sky is going to produce as far as water. You don't know the nutrients, like all of these things. Like, you don't know until that first sprout comes up when the sprout's going to come up, right? Like you don't know. So
Mhm.
um it's really like this whole manifestation thing is, yes, it can happen really fast, but also it can take some time, and it's okay to let it take time. Okay. I am speaking from experience right now because I literally look at my life and I'm like, I know I'm doing the do. I know I'm doing the things almost to the point, and I feel like I notice this when I talk to people that they get irritated for me. That they're like, God damn. Like, it's almost like they're seeing me and they're like, oh my God, I hope that never happens to me. Like, just because of the things that I say, like, and I won't tell everybody my entire story, okay? Right? Like, I'm not going to tell everybody, but the people that I let into my inner circle and I show them, like, really behind the hood, they're like, oh God. And it's almost like they're seeing this reflection that they're like, I hope that never happens to me because this looks like hell. And it's like, yeah, but I've learned a lot from it, right? Like that's how I've looked at it. And it's the same thing with the fall harvest. Like you put in the work, and if it happens, great. And if it doesn't, that's also great too. And when you
Mhm.
can get to that point, that's when your life really becomes a game. And you're like, okay, well, I'm doing these things and it's instantly creating the effect that I want. So,
Mhm.
what do I need to change about myself in order to create that in this part of my life too, right? Because we all, in some way, shape, or form, are really good at manifesting in different ways. Like, we're really good at manifesting the perfect soulmate, or really good at manifesting the perfect house or the perfect animals or whatever. Like we're really good at manifesting those certain things. But then there's something in our lives where we're like, I'm terrible at doing that. I don't know what that is. But the question then and the game becomes, well, what do I need to look at in my life? How do I need to look at either my environment, my body, my time, and ask myself, how do I overcome any one of those things in order to create what I want to create? Like, and it goes in seasons. And being okay with the seasons, that is not always an easy step to get to. When you
Mhm.
look at like, okay, I'm doing the do, but nothing is really changing in this part of my life. Everything else is changing. Like other parts of my world are changing, but this one thing, and this is the thing that I've really been putting the time and energy into, this one thing doesn't seem to be changing. So what do I need to change about myself? And this
Mhm.
is a place I've been for fuck. It's been probably 9 years really that I've
Yeah.
really been looking at that since I started my entrepreneur journey, because when you start as an entrepreneur, you're really like you realize that your business will grow because you've grown. And that's
Mhm.
the only way that it can grow. And so
Mhm.
you start to like really pour into yourself and go, okay, what do I do differently here? What do I do differently there? And it's just a constantly looking at yourself and going, did I like that? Not really. What could I do differently? And then really making the tweaks and the changes that you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's kind of along the lines of that 10 feet from gold, you know?
Hmm.
Like there are certain things that are going to take more work, more tweaking, more effort, whether it's generational trauma or a blind sight. There's so many factors. And like at the end of the day, we don't really need to know. Like
Yeah.
that's why I don't really do like past life stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Um, no, it doesn't. Like you're gonna work through it or you're not.
Yeah. You choose to or you don't, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and usually more effort has a bigger reward at the end, but not always. You know, stuff happens. There's a big hailstorm. There was root rot, like there's things that are going to happen where you have to be like, okay, that sucked. Time to reevaluate, time to start over, you know. And like for gardening, for me, I've tried gardening before. And I planted a whole bunch of stuff, all my favorite foods, and then realized that basically nothing worked because I picked the hardest things to grow.
Mm.
And so this year, when I was like shopping with my daughter, she's like, "Oh, I really want to grow that." I'm like, "I've tried that before. I wasn't successful. Let's work with the easy stuff first, and then build up our knowledge, build up our like essentially like muscle memory of like being in the routine of making sure it's properly fertilized, making sure it's proper pH, making sure it's watered and like just everything's taken care of. And then once we master the easy things, then let's start doing the hard things. And that worked really well. We had a huge harvest, we built our confidence, we had tons of fun, and now we're excited for next year and excited to have bigger, harder plants. And there's some things that we planted that didn't grow at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
not at all. And there's some things that we planted and within 5 days we were able to harvest. Like our lettuce, I don't know, it was on freaking steroids and the kids are so excited about it. Like we planted it from seed, like super awesome. And our peas were the first thing we planted. They still haven't even started to grow a pod. And so they're growing, but they're not there yet. So that's another thing. Like there's different plants that require sunlight, shade, different levels of fertilizer, different you can grow marigolds by tomatoes and it helps them. Like there's so many different factors. And so like, how much have you really dived in and evaluated and taken a look at your own life of like, what do you need beside you to help you thrive? I'm a water sign, as we were talking before we jumped on Zoom. I have a little fountain pond outside of my office window right here, and it makes me feel wonderful. I have a window, so if I'm working, I can see my kids coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
They come home from school, I'm in my office, I see them coming up. I love it. Like it makes me feel like I am the mom in the home of the house and where I work is right in that center area. So what kind of things can you do that are going to help you grow and help you go through that so that you can have that better manifestation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And like what you said, like truly, I feel like it nails it right on the head where you were talking about like, let's start with the things that we know first. I mean,
Yeah.
let's try the things that are more difficult too, but let's start with the things that we know. And some things grew and some things didn't. That's
Mhm.
how manifestation can work.
Yeah.
Okay? You get really good at something and then you go, oh, I can keep doing that over and over again. And you start to realize you can do it on autopilot. Like
Yeah.
you've gotten so good at it, you can do it on auto. You don't even have to think about it anymore, right? But then
Yeah.
this new thing that you want to create, you're like, still something's off. What
Mhm.
is it? And
Mhm.
so you have to kind of do a little bit more research, create new information in your brain in some way, shape, or form so that you can make different choices of what you're going to actually decide to do with this particular plant. The same thing with manifestation, okay? Like you're literally looking at your life and you're going, okay, this worked and I can do this completely on autopilot. But then this other thing, I really need to look a little bit deeper. I need to actually like get some new information in my brain, right? I need to start like reading some books, listening to some people, open up my horizons to things that I've never thought of or experienced before. And
Yeah.
maybe that new information can cause me to make a new choice in my
Mhm.
life. I
Yeah.
mean, so I've shared before on this podcast that I'm currently in training to become one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's neuro change solutions
What are you
consultant.
thinking about?
I don't know. So, but that's one of the things that like he talks about all the time. If you want to
Yeah.
create new change in your life, you probably want to get some new information. And that new information is going to cause you to think new thoughts. Those new thoughts, you're going to have different choices, right? You're going to change. I'm not going to go down through the whole thing of what he tells because I could because I'm learning it right now. But that's really the whole process. Like, get yourself into some new information. Surround yourself with people that maybe you never would have anticipated surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what caused me to fully deconstruct my Christian faith because I started surrounding myself with people and being in situations, listening to certain things that made me go, huh, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe life isn't what I thought it was. And maybe I need to do a little bit more looking. Maybe I
Mhm.
need to start looking under the hood of what I actually think about life right now and see, does this model, this Christian model, actually fit what I want to create in my life? And got down to it and was like, yeah, that's definitely not. like it doesn't make sense anymore. And
No.
it's okay. Like, I'm not going to say somebody's right or wrong or good or bad for continuing to believe in Christianity or whatever religion you want to put in there. It's your prerogative. Like,
Mhm.
you're allowed.
Yeah.
There, it's okay to choose to do things certain ways. And that's the exact same thing with manifestation. Like, you
Mhm.
get to choose what you want to create. You get to choose how you want to create it. I truly believe that we choose on most of the time it's on an subconscious, unconscious level of
Yeah.
how we want to learn things too.
Mhm.
So you've chosen that on some level.
Mhm.
So you could sit here and you could fight it, or you could go, well, this is how it is. What could I do differently? I mean, I
Yeah.
have literally had mentors sit with me dumbfounded and being like, I'm confused right now. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And so you show them and it's like, okay, that doesn't make sense that you don't have the results that I did, you know? And so I just kind of look at my life and I'm like, I chose to learn something. I chose to experience something in a different way from other people. I decided to plant something and then maybe it didn't work. Okay, I'm gonna plant something else. I'm gonna try something else. Like, that's the process. Like, it's okay that it takes longer. Time isn't a thing, people. Can we stop it? Like, time doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, it, like, you could look back at your life and be like, oh my God, like, I can't believe that it took me this long to understand that. You're focusing on the wrong thing. The thing to focus on is, I figured it out. Okay, now I know how to.
Well, yeah. And like you said, like time isn't a thing. It doesn't actually matter. And that's the really cool thing is a lot of people look like they're instantly successful, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And you didn't see all the work that led up to that.
Hmm.
And so everything can change in a minute, you
Hmm.
know? You literally, it can be a snap of your fingers. And so you can be putting in the work for 5, 10 years or more, and then all of a sudden it all comes together and it doesn't matter because you're further ahead than you would have been if you had seen small results over that 5 to 10 years.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I look back at my life and I'm like, yeah, I did good creating it like that. Even the things that are shitty, I'm like, nah, that's how it was. That's how I needed it. Because
Mhm.
if it didn't go that way, then I might not have created this thing or that thing or whatever, you know? So I think back in college, I was accepted to play volleyball at Baylor. Okay, I'm 6'2". You can't see me because you're listening. So, but I'm tall, and the coaches were like all over it. They were like, "Yes, we want you to play," and so I played volleyball for a semester at Baylor, realized that I fucking hated it and was like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it would be. This isn't the experience that I want to continue to create. I ended up transferring schools completely, changing up everything, and I realized that if I hadn't transferred when I did, or if I had just gone to this first school in the first place, I probably wouldn't have met my husband.
Mm.
My husband is a cool dude. So
Nice.
I created all of that for
Yeah.
a reason because
Mhm.
I was plopped into a specific place at a specific time because of the choices that I made that led me up to that.
Mhm.
So I can let go of the fact that I did this thing that I didn't really like, and it created like a lot of stuff that I had to overcome later on in life. That's okay. I got to meet my husband.
Well, and we've talked about that before too, of like the whole 9/11 thing and everything like that. Like sometimes it seems like the worst thing is happening and it's really not that bad of a thing that's happening.
Mhm,
And so it can really be a setup to something really good, right?
mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that is things don't always appear um in the real reality of what you're manifesting down the road.
yeah. And now I'm super distracted because Ashley now has a little limpet on her. If you're not watching, one of her kids jumped in the room and wanted to say hi. So,
Yes,
So,
one of the many unexpected wonderful things in my life.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that just goes to show like we in our infinite knowing and in our human unknowing tend to create exactly what we need exactly when we need it. And
Mhm.
the thing that I really started to embrace recently is just stepping straight into the unknown and actually loving being there. A lot of us will create this fear around being in an unknown situation. Like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen next. When you don't know what's going to happen next, that's the best place to be because that's where possibility lives. If you always know what's going to happen, you can't create anything new because you've already lived it the day before. So the moment that you step into a situation that you're like, I've never been here before, you should get excited instead of scared because the excitement can actually create something really cool instead of the fear that could create something that maybe you don't really want to create. So it's asking yourself, when I step into an unknown situation, what do I want to create? Do I want to create with fun and excitement, or do I want to be scared to death? Oh my God, I got to hold on so tight because I don't know what's going to happen. So it's a game. Life is a game. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's literally like, how can I just go, I'm going to do this thing that I've never done before, and it could go really bad, it could go really great, but I don't really care. Let's see what
Mhm.
happens. And stepping into that and creating possibility.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I learned really early on from one of my mentors is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a massive difference to have that comfort. And oh my God, I'm sorry.
So guys, if you're not watching us, we're laughing because all the kids are now here. So
Oh boy.
oh
Okay.
man.
I love you guys. Give me 5 minutes, please, and thank you.
The life of a stepmom. So yes, so the truth of the matter is that like you said, Ashley, just jumping into a situation and getting really comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's what creates that fall harvest, like we were talking about. Like the like when you were talking about planting new things, let's start with something that we do know, but then yeah, let's grow to something that we don't know and see what happens because it could turn out really great and we could have this really cool either food source or really cool plant or whatever as a result of us stepping in and getting comfortable with that uncomfortability of learning something new.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And like as my life, you know,
Yeah.
trying to keep on going with our podcast wonderfully without interruption. And that is what life is. There's going to be
Mhm.
interruptions. There's going to be things that don't go as planned. The three of them in my life wasn't planned. I never thought I even wanted kids. And then COVID happened. I got stuck in Canada. I met an awesome person who had three amazing kids. And I would never have been able to consciously manifest that
Mhm.
because it was completely out of my awareness of
Mhm.
how much I was meant for that and how much I desired that.
Yeah, yeah. So to go back to that TikTok that I was watching the other day, yesterday, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm getting chills for you." I'm actually getting chills talking about this because I know
Mhm.
that this is the truth, right? She's like, "I'm getting chills for you because you're about to manifest something that you literally like you couldn't even plan this. You wouldn't even like you're going to be so caught off guard. You couldn't have thought about creating this." And I'm like, "Ah, I have a really big imagination. Like, I'll tell people what I want to create in my life and they look at me like, "Okay, sister," all the time. But like I have this really big imagination of what I want to create and how I want it to look and all of that. Meanwhile, I'm like, if it's something better, I'm okay with that too. Or if it's something not better, I'm okay with that too. I don't care. Like, let's
Mhm.
just like throw for the fences and see where it goes. You know, is that how you say that? I don't even know, but whatever. So, but it's just being really it's being okay with where you are, and that creates more. That
Mhm.
creates the possibility of even more at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Well, we've talked about Kevin Trudeau on our podcast too, and he has a really good podcast. I don't know what his recording audio
yeah,
recording.
it's called Your Wish is Your Command. If you haven't
Mhm.
listened to it, I definitely recommend it. You can listen to it for free on Spotify. You can also, I don't know if you can still purchase it on Amazon,
I
but
put
I
it on
purchased
YouTube.
on YouTube. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So listen to it for free on either YouTube or on Spotify.
Yeah.
I purchased it. I'm glad that I did because I'm like, I have this forever. Nobody can take this away because it's so, so good. There's so many truths that he shares in there that I'm like, yes. And what's funny is the first time I heard him, I was like, he is so in alignment with what Dr. Joe talks about. Like, it's crazy. The more that I learn Dr.
Mhm.
Joe stuff too, and like really learn it to really know it, I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, this is just like Kevin Trudeau. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so what I was going to say in regards to him is like he talks about how like you can manifest anything you want. Like you can create anything you want. But the like highest level of manifestation is allowing the universe to bring you what it knows is best for you, what is in your highest good.
mhm,
And really asking that question, like, what is in my highest good? And for me, with my kids and my partner, it's what is in our collective highest good? Um, and that is something that I pursue and try to manifest as much as possible. And it's harder to do that, and that's why it's a higher level of manifestation because you want to control. You think
mhm,
you know what you want, and your
yeah.
ego gets in the way, right? And that's where, like, somehow I manifested the kids and it wasn't in my consciousness. It was the universe bringing me my highest level of good that I had no idea was out there. And that's the really, really cool thing because you don't always know. You know, we have such a small awareness, such a small lens of what we've seen and experienced between the people, the situations, the places, all of it. It's very tiny.
Mhm.
The universe is infinite like that. When we talk about the universe, I don't think there's like planets sending us all this
No,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like the infinite intelligence that we are all connected to, the source. It knows what is going to be in our highest good. It has infinite intelligence that knows all things, so it's going to send that to us in wonderful.
Yeah. And so to kind of give like a little bit more on what you're talking about, Ashley, because I think that how Kevin Trudeau explains this is so beautiful because I feel like most people that teach manifestation get it completely off. Like, I'm not going to say you're wrong because you can create however you want to create,
Yeah.
but how he explains this is not how most people explain it. And I think it's so beautiful. So,
Mhm.
most people explain manifestation that the best way to manifest is to write down exactly to a T. Like, say you want to manifest a car, okay? You're going to write down what that car is going to look like, what it's going to feel like, like all the details of that car that you can possibly think about. You're going to get so specific and so detailed. I can't tell you how many manifestation gurus out there will tell you that you just have to be so freaking specific. Kevin Trudeau is like, yeah, you can manifest like that. That's the lowest form.
Mhm.
The lowest, okay? Like when you think of the best thing that you could possibly think of, that this is what you want to create, right? And you write that down, that is the lowest form.
Mhm.
The next level, so getting really specific, that's the first level. The second level is to start getting really general. How do you think you want it to look? What might it feel like? Have a little bit more curiosity with it, right? He's like, this is actually a better way to manifest.
Mhm.
Like that's crazy. Most people are like, oh no, if you're too general, you're not going to create what you want to. Bullshit. Like literally that generality can actually help you.
Hmm.
Now, he like you said, Ashley, the third and the best way that he explains to manifest is to just be like be so happy. I feel so good. Like he says this all the time on his things. Oh, I feel so good. I wonder what I could create today, right? Like that is the best way to create. That is the best way to manifest because like you said, Ashley, whatever comes regardless, you're going to just go, I feel so good. I feel so good. And the more that you can do that, I don't know how else to say it. You just start to create some really cool stuff. And even
Hmm.
the stuff that you create that you think, oh, this isn't really cool, it might end up being really cool and you had no idea. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's the general or the letting things be open. Once you can kind of let go of that control and trust, it is so much more freeing in the sense that you have less obstacles to overcome. Because when you have that like focus on that very specific thing, it's like I have to have that. Every time you see it and you don't have it, it creates scarcity. It creates
lack.
want.
Yep.
It creates wishing.
Hmm.
And every time you see it on your like dream board, same idea. Like, oh, I don't have that yet. I gotta do better. I gotta manifest that. And then you go into that affirmations of manifesting and visualization, but you just created lack right before.
Lack. Mhm.
Yeah, and so I think having that general, like just bring it to me, everything is meant for me, whatever's in my highest good, something bad may happen to me, but it's setting me up for a higher advantage. Like I was talking to my daughter last night, I'm like, because we were talking about philosophy, I guess. I don't know what we call it, spirituality. We were talking about yin yangs and how everything happens for a reason and all that kind of stuff. And I said, my biggest philosophy is that sometimes stuff just happens and it doesn't feel good. But with every thing that happens, like to you, every disadvantage, so this is a Think and Grow Rich Napoleon Hill thing, with every disadvantage, you're set up with an equal seed of advantage.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't matter what bad things happen to you, you can set yourself up for something better.
Mhm.
So that's what I truly believe. And when you allow yourself to just be in that general open space, that's where you truly get to see that the fastest.
Mhm.
But it requires letting go of that control and
Yeah.
thinking that you know best.
Yeah, I think I just recently really relearned this whole thing again, right? And the
Mhm.
reason that I recently relearned it is because I did a little bit of retrospection, right? I looked at my business from when I started building in the online space, and I was very specific on how I wanted it to look.
Mhm.
Super specific. This is where I'm going to grow. This is how I'm going to grow. This is what I'm going to do, right? So specific. Now I look at what I'm doing and I'm like, I'm going to go where the wind takes me. And that I'm not saying that when I say I'm going to go where the wind takes me, I'm not saying that I'm not doing the work, right? I'm not doing the things that need to do in order to grow something, right? Like in 3D reality, the truth of the matter is we do still have to take 3D action. Okay? Like that's still a thing. So I'm not saying that like by going with the wind that I'm just flibbity dibbiting through life and not doing anything. No, I'm just going, if it comes to me, let's try it and see what happens instead of being like, it has to look like this. This is
Mhm.
how it has to be. If it comes to me and I'm like, I really want to try that. Let's
Yeah.
see what happens. Let's go for it and see what happens. Now, the other piece of that too is it doesn't mean I'm going from thing to thing to thing to thing, okay? Because that's another trap that we can find ourselves in at times, right? So, it's just going, okay, well, I have this on my plate right now. Do I want to add another thing or do I want to let go of something that's not really it's not really coming to fruition right now? Maybe I want to go back to it later. Like there's more openness. Like I hopefully like people that are listening can hear the difference in how I was in my business and how I am now. right?
Mhm.
And I've built businesses with that set. This is how
Mhm.
it's going to grow. This is what's going to, I've built big businesses by doing that. So
Yeah.
there's no reason that you can't. But I will tell you, just like you said, Ashley, there is more freedom when you
Mhm.
can kind of open up and go, let's see what happens today. What could I create today?
Yeah, and for me, with that whole like thought process, I think that that is where like the real beauty happens of just being present in it and letting it happen and not having anything be like super like when you clutch onto something, it doesn't work. It's not effective. You're not manifesting at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah. There's this like attachment that comes in.
mhm.
And it's like that attachment creates, when it doesn't happen the way you think it's going to, creates this negative feeling a lot of times inside of us where it's like, oh, it didn't happen again. And then you have another thing that you have to overcome because you keep thinking that thought over and over again. How do I know? Because I've done it. Okay. I've done it, so you don't have to. You're welcome.
But you probably still will. You probably will again. But that's also like what you're talking about before of just having that freedom with your business. That's really like I went like this, like kind of joking around because that's what this podcast is. Like we're
Hmm.
like, oh, let's talk about this. And it's just like whichever way the wind blows.
Yeah,
You
and I
know?
was thinking about it. I feel like if no one ever listened to this ever, I feel like it's been really healing for both of us. If
Yes.
nothing else came of this, like the fact that we get to sit here and just chat about this shit, like, and if somebody listens, great. If they don't, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's no pressure on it, but we have both learned from each other as a result. And so for me, that's a win. Period. End of story.
Well,
So.
especially when both of us are verbal processors.
Ah.
Weird that we're doing a podcast together.
Uh-huh. And it's called TMI, advice you didn't want, because yeah, verbal vomit will probably come out from the verbal processors.
Yeah.
So
And
you're
sometimes we
welcome.
don't even want our own advice. So
So yeah, so but with that, I think we can call it a day on TMI advice you didn't want for right now. So friends, if you are listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like and follow. And let us know in the comments what you thought. What are your thoughts and feelings? And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, go ahead, give us a 5-star, leave us a comment, let us know your thoughts also. But with that, we will call TMI advice you didn't want a wrap for today. See everyone next time. Thanks so much for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue hanging out with us, and don't forget to subscribe.